Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our KFIR Middle East update. It is January 16th, and we're going to look back over the events that's transpired in Israel, the Middle East, over this last week. As we begin, just a reminder, there is a PDF PowerPoint that accompanies this YouTube. You want to make sure you grab that. Photos, links of articles, there's so much more on the PDF PowerPoint notes, so grab that. But it's been over 100 days. I think it's 102 days now since October 7th, since the barbaric, heinous events that took place in Gaza. And we're still looking at over 100 captives. We still don't know how many are alive that are being held who knows where in Gaza, terror tunnels. But it's important for us not to forget and to remember. The October 7th attack represented more Jews being killed than at any time since the Holocaust. Israel's not fighting just a run-of-the-mill enemy. They're fighting an enemy that wants a second Holocaust. They are fighting an enemy that simply wants to wipe them off the map. So not only do they have the right, they have the responsibility to protect their people and to end Hamas once and for all. I was reading in the Remnant, and their statement resonated with me. It says, "It's always the way of the faithful to, as much as possible, seek and maintain peace. However, evil must be consistently and constantly addressed, even as we mourn the loss of innocent lives on both sides of the war. You cannot turn a blind eye to these events." So our news bites this week, the powerful Hebrew phrase, Yehad Natazich, together we will win, can be found everywhere right now in Israel. It's displayed on billboards, on the bottom of bank statements, new songs that are coming out. It's even printed on the egg cartons at grocery stores. It is the rallying cry of the people of Israel. Together we will win. It's amazing, however, to see that the entire world is sort of chasing after arms and legs rather than the head, that being Iran, because Iran is setting fire to the entire Middle East. And it's also, make no mistake about it, racing towards its first nuclear test. Up north, Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, signals that his organization is ready for an all-out war. He's not afraid of the threats of Israel and Biden, and he claims that Israel has achieved absolutely nothing in the war in Gaza. And then this just in, and we'll deal with this a little bit more, but the word is that the intensive phase, that Israel's going into phase number 3, and the intensive phase of number 2 of the ground defense in northern Gaza has ended. Now, with that being said, there are tough decisions that need to be made because in making that statement, it's revealing a deep divide with the leadership in Israel. Apparently, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, Benny Gantz, represent the side, and Benny Gantz, the head of the National Unity Party, very popular. If there was a vote today in Israel, I wouldn't doubt if Gantz would win. But they represent the side that appears ready to shift the war to this less intensive phase, or in the case of Gantz, even to entertain a full stop in order to get the return of the hostages. So that's one side. On the other side, you have Gideon Saar, you've got Bibi Netanyahu, and you have Ron Demir, and they're publicly calling this pushback or pullback a drastic mistake. Remember, once this word was given, following that, the largest rocket barrage, it was the largest over the last few weeks, were fired from the exact area in which the IDF's 36th Division had just begun to withdraw. And again, Saar, his quote is, "Greetings from reality. The goals have not been achieved. The war must not be stopped before the objectives are achieved. It's wrong to lower our military pressure. It should actually be increased." And these are the tough decisions that need to be made today. And Bibi must choose. Netanyahu needs to choose between the Israeli public, which elected him to office as the head of a right religious governing coalition, and Washington, which rejects the will of the Israeli people. As for Hezbollah up north, Israel should be striking missile stores and terrorist barracks. They need to be prepared to carry out ground operations immediately. Bottom line, Israel must defeat Hezbollah. It's the only way that Israelis in the northern communities will be able to live safely in their homes. And again, the idea is that Biden is directing this. He's acting like an imperial overload, barking orders at a backwater, troublesome province. And the sentiment that's growing in Israel is simply this: victory is more important than U.S. support. Again, an article from Caroline Glick, right-wing, obviously Israeli, who KFIR and Holy Ground, we think a lot, we hold her in very high esteem. And then the Philadelphia corridor, that's we've given you a map on the PDF PowerPoint. It's the border between Egypt and Gaza. And the Wall Street Journal has an article, you'll see it, again, a snapshot of that basically says Israel has informed Egypt that it's going to launch an operation to take over the Philadelphia corridor very soon. Israel needs to shut the tunnels completely down. The tunnels of the Philadelphia corridor supply weapons to Hamas. There's no doubt about it. It is the main oxygen pipe of Hamas where weapons are smuggled into the Gaza Strip. In addition to the fear of tunnels crossing into Egypt, kidnappers and senior officials are known to be smuggled back and forth. Many believe that some of the captives has been smuggled out and relocated through the Philadelphia corridor. Taking over this will be a tie-breaking move. But Israel and Egypt and the Arab nations are going to be at odds over this move. Make no doubt about that. And then we have an event of terrorism that just happened yesterday. One person was killed, 18 more wounded in a terrorist attack in central Israel on Monday afternoon. A combination of car ramming and stabbing. 2 Palestinian Arabs stabbed a female driver, stole her car, slammed into pedestrians. Bottom line, a 76-year-old woman was killed, and 7 of the victims, and again, there were 18 that were wounded. 7 of the victims that were wounded in the attack were children, most of whom were injured as they left school. Again, a legacy of hate. Unbelievable article, but I have to report on it. Anthony Blinken says that Israel needs to simply trust the United Nations. Blinken praised the UN and he called for Israel to put its trust in the international organization's workers. The watchdog UN group that has now, it's been reported, it's clear that there's ties between Hamas and UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Works Agency. It aids Palestinian refugees and their descendants. And Israel has decades-long and well-founded history of skepticism about the UN. And to hear Blinken say, you've got to trust, keep this in mind. After he made that statement, the UN Watch uncovered a Telegram group of 3,000 UNRWA teachers in Gaza, many of whom celebrated the October 7th massacre as it was happening. And the group, UN Watch showed, regularly sends messages inciting and praising terrorism. Blinken emphasized that Israel had no choice but to work with the UN only hours before this trove of messages was published. He called the UN indispensable, saying that there's simply no alternative. Really? That's the solution. Israel just needs to trust the UN, or maybe Qatar. Here's another article. Qatar, truly are they the peacemakers? If the ruler of Qatar really wanted to end the hostage saga, all he has to do is issue an ultimatum to Hamas that if the hostages are not released within 48 hours, he will expel all the Hamas leaders who are still in Qatar and stop funding and providing political support to that group. But apparently Qatar doesn't feel that it's under any pressure whatsoever from the Biden administration to end the ordeal of the hostages. And then listen, if Hamas released the hostages and laid down its weapons, the war would end tomorrow. However, with Biden and Blinken handling both Iran and Hamas's patrons in Qatar with kid gloves, Qatar and Tehran have no reason whatsoever to stop anything. That's the bottom line. And then our last article is the Iran preparing to go nuclear. This period of time, the Biden administration's leadership has witnessed noticeable strides in Iran's ballistic missile capabilities. Not just the nuclear aspect, which they're only a half a tick away from beginning nuclear tests, but the delivering systems, the ballistic missile capabilities. Under the Biden administration, the Iranian regime appears to have been developing sophisticated missiles primarily designed as delivery vehicles for its soon-to-be nuclear weapons. The world in which we're living. And then I found it interesting, this whole ordeal over genocide, South Africa, their case against Israel in the Hague. And I just happened to see the flag of the Hague, and it's that green and yellow, and I think, is this a coincidence? The primarily colors of Hamas, you've seen the headbands, or the primarily colors of Hezbollah, once again, coincidence? What we do know is that this world is spinning and wobbling right now. What we do know is that the day will come where Israel has to stand alone. So it doesn't surprise us to see anti-Semitism on the rise and really to see the U.S. backing away from its support of Israel. The question is, believers, is who will you stand with in these days? My prayer is that you'll stand with Israel. God is not finished. Genesis 12 is still in play. I will bless those that bless thee, and I will curse those who curse thee. That's our report for this week. God bless you, and shalom.